attendance. And I would say to you that just 15 minutes ago, we heard from Councilman Lawson, who came down with illness very late in the day, and he's not going to be able to make it. So could you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Councilman Fogarty?
Here.
Councilman Lawson is absent. Council Vice President Vigo?
Here.
Councilwoman Souza? Here. Council President Rodrick?
Here. Thank you. 4 present, 1 absent. Next on the agenda is the salute to the flag, so please rise. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, liberty and justice for all.
I'll entertain a motion to go into the executive session according to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46(5). Tonight, A and 2 relate to claims and sewer abatements, collective bargaining, and litigation. We will hopefully just be a matter of minutes and then return. Is there a motion to that?
I make a motion that we go to go to executive session.
Second.
Motion made by Councilman Rego, seconded by Councilman Fogarty. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, we'll recess into executive session and be right back.
Yep.
Session, the agenda. Okay, I'll start with saying, is there a motion to, seal the executive session?
Make a motion to seal the executive minutes.
Made by Councilman Fogarty, seconded by all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Yes, sir. There are no proclamations or presentations. Next would be consent calendar for discussion and possible vote. The council journals, the regular meeting minutes from February 21st of 2023. And we also have the tax abatements in a total amount of $3,035.03.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Made by Councilman Eagle. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. At this time, in keeping with our procedure to move department heads and other vendors forward on the agenda, if there's no objection, I'm going to move from page 5, item 2A, the revaluation presentation by the Northeast Revaluation Group, notice of new property value assessments. So at this time, without objection, I'd ask tax assessor if you want to take it from here, Sarah Crew.
Hi, good evening. So as you know, we've been conducting the reevaluation and we're right at the tail end. So we thought it'd be a good time to have a representative from Northeast Reevaluation come in and kind of go over what the findings are of the reval. So we put a presentation together where we're going to show you some of the sales that we've been seeing and how they align to what the median assessments are coming in at. Also, so you guys should all have a copy of the presentation, color copy. And also we passed out a sample letter of what we'll be mailing out to the residents. As of March 17th, we plan on getting those notices out. At that time, we're going to have maybe 4 weeks availability for taxpayers to call into the reevaluation company. And at that time, they'll be able to dispute or just question their value. We're going to be holding the meetings at City Hall on the second floor. All that information will be in the letter. So with all that being said, if there's no questions for me, I can turn it over to Rich Nagel and he'll give the presentation. And I'll stick around for questions.
Thank you. Mr. Nagel, you can proceed.
Thanks, Sarah. Good evening, folks, everybody. Thanks for having us tonight, by the way. We've got some information that we've worked with Sarah present regarding what's been happening not only in the city of East Providence, the market in general. It's kind of a unique time right now. So what we'll do is we'll talk a little bit about the actual numbers that are happening in the city. We'll briefly discuss a little bit about how evaluation happens and why it's important. Show you some stats as to sort of behind the scenes on the sales that we've looked at and how we handle that in terms of creating new assessments. We'll finish up with talking about informal hearings so that property owners can understand they have an opportunity to sit with us later on in the process and discuss any concerns that they might have or ask questions. So, starting out, you can see right ahead, right there on the very beginning, that your current residential property is up about 51%. So it's just part of what's been happening in this very interesting market. I've been in this business for 30-something years, and I have to tell you, I have never increased values 50% in general. But combination of COVID, people working from home, lack of inventory, you've been able to see some of this on the news and how year after year in Rhode Island for the last 3 to 4 years, we've had increases of literally 10 to 15% per year. Commercial property is also up relatively significantly. It's been flat really for a number of years, but the effect of the price, the increase in residential market has impacted apartment buildings, impacted rents, so mixed use, et cetera. They've seen sort of a complementary increase in value along this same line. So we'll go to the next slide. We'll get right into. A lot of people are interested to know, why is this important? We said yes. I want to know. It is important, and it's an interesting question, I think. It kind of stems back. This started about 100 years ago in the States, and people were trying to understand, what's the arbiter of fairness when you're trying to put values on property. About 100 years ago, the tax assessors were actually elected. And so you can imagine the kind of shenanigans that could go on if you had an elected tax assessor that maybe could pass out favors. Instead, what happened is the powers that be, the professionals in the industries, the states, the assessment professionals all decided that the best way to equitably distribute the tax burden was bring those assessments into line with the market periodically. Because what happens is over time, these assessments come out of step with the marketplace. And then the equity is starting to shift a little bit, one way or the other. So the other thing that's sort of unique about real estate is that different properties increase or decrease in value in relation to each other. So you might have a neighborhood that becomes a little more preferred than another neighborhood, or vice versa. I've seen over the years styles change. There was a time in the 80s where contemporary raised ranch was the hottest thing going, and nobody wants them today. So literally, consumer taste will change as well. So one thing to keep in mind is when you see some of these big numbers on increases in value, is that this does not relate to the tax rate. The tax rate, when you're going to have increases in values, the tax rate typically is going to decline. So you've got to wait and see what these folks end up doing with the budget and so forth. But you So I want to give you some you'll see it's really And beginning of that period, I was like, that is like, it's absurd. Much, I'll say, my recommendations. It's like, wow, man. It's not good. But remember that. You're going to be last look at them too. The last time the title numbers about really parents. This story. And you got to building. It should have sold 2020. So you can see it will be just on the right. From 30 increase 2%. So you can buy for variety of reason like that. Say highlights. Properties for the last look. What I'm going to nutshell, what we do and see is take a look at sales here. We're going to stop by them. We're going to all make that. Is that there's we're starting up. And we'll do the whole model scales instead. Some pieces. Some basic stuff. You know, it was awesome. It was on. That movie. Very small. Radio podcast. How we model and set up. We help with that. Actual sales. Now, we want to have what we can. So sales and simply yeah, here's the step by step. By worrying about how you work on the sales. Lock table. And they lock the next question. Essentially, they pull them out
Again, for anyone at home who maybe just turned on your computer and you're wondering what's going on, we are trying to replace the microphone at the podium so that those who are watching this broadcast can hear it. We understand the audio is in and out. Is it? We're better? Okay, sorry to interrupt you, but it appears that we can resume now.
Excellent. Okay. I was doing this presentation a number of years ago, and it's such exciting stuff that one of the council people fell asleep in their chair. So I'm keeping an eye on you guys. So, all right. Anyways, let's go to the next slide. So there's actually several slides here that are really more for your reference when you get back to the house or whatever. If you wanted to look up your neighborhood, you can find your neighborhood on your on the website, and you could see what happened. This gives you essentially the sales by neighborhood, and it may be of interest to see how many sales were in your neighborhood versus their median value and so forth. So just some information that, that we're using to help, correlate those tables. So what I want to do is that's 2 slides in a row. And again, that's primarily for reference. Let's jump to the actual hearings. We've got a couple slides on the hearings. And then, of course, we're more than happy to answer questions. So we skip right through to when you get right there. So one of the things that happens in a revaluation is that you have an opportunity at the end of the project, once you receive the letter, to contact us and sit down with it and have a chat. If you can either contact us and have a hearing for questions, or you can bring a concern. Maybe you feel like the measurements are off. Maybe you feel like the value doesn't make any sense. You're welcome to contact us. You'll be able to do that either online to make an appointment or call our office directly. I want you to know that we will do phone hearings for those that don't have the ability to drive, or maybe they're out of state on vacation. You're welcome to call in. We'll set that up. The phone number will be on there. This is a great question. What should I bring to a hearing? Well, you don't have to bring anything. This is very informal, but if you have information that in the form of pictures, in the form of a document, you might have a wetland document, for instance, or a picture of a crack in your basement, that kind of thing. You're welcome to bring those. Just remember to bring a copy so that you can leave it with us. But what's going to happen is we're not going to make any decisions on the spot. We need to bring that information back and be able to dive deep in the system and see whether or not we've got any issues. We're also going to look and see whether or not it requires an inspection of the home. For instance, in the case of a measurement issue, we likely would just come back out and double check the measurement, that kind of thing. We go to the next slide. I don't want to forget a couple things. Right. So we don't make adjustments at the hearing. We do that back at the office when we've got sort of all the data that we can look at the same time. We don't have any information on the tax situation. That's their domain, and you can call them and ask them what's going on. If you attend a hearing, you'll get a response from us, and it'll simply be, what the final value in our opinion is. Now, keep in mind that we're one opinion, in a sense, and that if you disagree with the final assessed value, when you get your tax bill, the town will actually have information for you how to appeal directly to the city. I should say city, not town. And that's a different set of eyes at that point looking at it. You're able to be heard by a different source. Anyways, that's really, I went through that fairly quickly, but I thought you might have some questions. Feel free. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, wait, excuse me, it's not really the process right now. I think people have signed up to, we can change and we can allow people to come forward. We have, limited process. How many here have, by show of hands, signed up in the back of the room with the sign-up sheet? Okay, and on this matter, how many signed up to speak? Right, and that's okay. If you didn't, we'll still allow that. But, that's been set up for years. That's the process that people sign in. And then, Sarah, do you want to add anything to what was just presented? Do you have anything to add from the tax assessor's point of view? Sure, well, if you could help. And I would ask you, when you say people can call you directly, do they go right to you and not through the city?
That's correct. There's a number to our office on that assessment letter. And they'll call our office and speak to us, or they can go online if it's convenient and set their own appointment.
Okay, so first I'm sorry, go ahead, continue.
I was going to say, there's actually credentials in the letter that'll allow them to go in and make their own appointment. But
Okay, so first I would ask the council if you have any questions to ask.
I do. Do you
Councilman Rigo?
want to go first? Okay. Okay, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
First of all, if I was to go to the website right now, Northeast, I haven't done it in a while to check my property and everything. It's still going to show the old value.
That's correct.
Okay. Next question is, if I come to appeal my property, if I'm a taxpayer, are you telling me what properties that you're matching my property up against? So I go beforehand? Am I going to know?
Well, I'll answer that in two ways. One, the person that's handling the hearing will have a sales report. Typically, we do it by neighborhood. We also do it by style. So if you've got a colonial, we may be able to find a sale in your neighborhood because essentially any sale that's your style, we're going to be using that in any sale of your type of home is used in the analysis.
In my particular block.
Well, in your neighborhood or citywide in terms of style, because we have to look at the data from various directions to make sure that it makes sense.
Okay.
So,
My next question isn't to you, it's for Sarah. Obviously, we're on a city budget that goes until October 31st. The past city council, we already know what the budget is. They laid the tax rate out based on the levy of what we did. So I know people are going to panic, even though it's been in the press releases. Don't go by the tax rate now and the value, because as we said, when the values go up, the rate per thousand goes down. Right now, we're around 23, I would like to round up. So we're around $23 a thousand, or 22 change,
Almost
whatever.
22.
22, yeah. So in theory, the values are going to go up. The levy right now is where we are. So people should know we should know where the rate's going to be, because in a couple, these go out on March 17th, 60 days later, around May or end of May, people are going to be getting their tax bills. And the tax bills are going to be based on what you're putting on paper as of March 17th. So between you and Malcolm, we should know what the tax rate is. We shouldn't have to wait another 60 or 70 days, because when people come in, they should absolutely know exactly what's going on. Because again, I'll just throw out a number. If you're paying $3,000 a year in taxes, and my house went up, but I'm going to still paying $3,000 in taxes, I don't have a tax increase. And I think that's the thing that's going to be working in people's mind. It's obviously value's great, but what is getting out of my pocket? And as a council person, that's what I'm here to protect. So we need to have all that information. So I ask that you and the finance department and the mayor's office, everybody get together so that we're totally got all the information for the people, because that can stop a lot of people from flooding for appeals when they realize, okay, my house used to be $220,000, now it's $320,000, but my tax rate stays the same. That's the bottom line. How much money you're taking out of my pocket?
So we do know that we're going to be able to reduce the rate significantly. We're still working on other processes in the tax roll. We still have to work on a tangible tax roll. We usually finish that around April. So we also, as a result of the hearings, the values could change, not drastically, but they could change. So before we start giving that number out, we're cautious, because we still have some parts of the process that we're still working on before we certify the tax roll. The legislation, okay.
Yeah, because
And we're also trying to,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And
finish.
we're also working on a legislation right now that we're trying to get passed. We went today to testify on it. So that way if this passes, we'll also be able to reduce the rate even more significantly. So we still have some things that we're trying to work out.
Obviously, it's going to be a lot of sticker shock.
Right.
As you've explained and everything, prices have gone up.
Yep.
And everything going up, it's that bottom line that got to protect all the taxpayers. And
Which
part of
will-
now we're on a full year, because it's supposed to be every 3 years, correct? And so you're basing this on 4 years.
4 years from our last
From
revaluation.
your last reval.
Yes, because we delayed the reval.
Delayed the reval. So people need to know that we're a year behind. So we're 4. So is the clock ticking? Does the clock tick now from 2022 to 2025, or is the clock ticking from 2021 when it should have been, the 3 years that way? So when is the new clock ticking? As of now, or when it
We
should
all-
have been?
We only changed the 1 year. So we're still on the same reval schedule going forward. Is that what you mean?
That's what I mean. So we're already a year into the next reval. Because we should have been, we're a
Right,
year
right.
behind, yeah.
Yes.
All right,
It'll
that's,
come up again.
it will come up, it's really gonna come up in 2 years.
Right. It'll actually be a full reval.
Yeah,
That's still scheduled for 12/31/2024 for the 25.
that's what I mean.
tax.
We're not, we
Yes.
didn't get pushed back another year.
No.
Because as long as I'm here, I don't like being delayed, because this should have been taken care of last year and not this year. Because now you got an extra year into this. If these were based on 2021 and everything going on, but we had another year of prices going this way. So it should have been done last year, but I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, Councilwoman Souza?
So you mentioned that legislation that was testified. Can you speak to that, what that legislation was?
Sure. So currently in the city, we have legislation that talks about how we can adjust our tax rates. We have the 3 different tax rates, the residential, the commercial, and the tangible. Currently, the legislation states that every year, even during a reval year, when values could change between the classes of property, that we have to adjust all the tax rates by the same percentage. So if values are up, we have to reduce all the tax rates down by the same percentage. If values go down, we have to increase all the tax rates up by the same percentage. So what we're trying to do is, because the residential properties increased on average around 50%, and the commercial increased on average around like 25-30%, we're trying to make it so we don't have to adjust the tax rates all by the same percentage. We have some flexibility in there, that we can adjust the rates by different percentages. In reval years, yes. In between reval years, we're still going to have the same percent change. Just on reval years, we would like to have some flexibility. As you can see in this presentation.
Right, you got 50 to 25, so property did not increase the same percentage across the board, difference between commercial. So if we're stuck with the law as it's now, and it's how old is that law? It's been
Long
on the books for a
time.
while. I think it was passed before there was a 369.
Remember, we used to do revals every 10 years.
Right, so this was a flaw that Sarah picked up, because it does prevent us from adjusting the rates at a different rate based upon the revaluation year. So if we don't do this, residentials will probably would get a whack based upon the current revaluation.
I don't want to say whack, but
Oh, actually, I
we
said
won't
whack.
be able to.
We wouldn't be able to adjust it more fairly, correct?
Oh, no.
It would be the
Right.
same percentage.
It would be better if we can have some flexibility in there. We don't.
It's a fair way of doing it. It's a way to take into account that the property values don't rise proportionally the same across the board.
So is it feasible for the next council meeting before this letter goes out? So this letter is dated to go out 17th. Considering snail mail, we're looking at every 4 to 5 days of receiving it, so that brings us to the end of the month, which is when the meeting is going to be held. Is there a way for the next council meeting for the council to receive some information regarding that rate adjustment? I know we can't really hold you to it, but at least give us a better idea of where we're going in terms of the tax rate.
I think that'll be okay.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe.
Sorry, Malcolm, could you use the podium?
It's possible we can get rough numbers. I'd have to sit with the mayor, because, we've got to sit down and, as the assessor was talking about, figure out what the different rates will be for the different classifications. Because what you want to do is start off with, if we collected 50,000 for tangible, we want to make sure that's the same number next year before, so that it's very similar. You don't want one rate to go up and really subsidize the other rate.
But it is feasible to have at least a ballpark number, which is what we think.
I don't think so.
I mean, we won't hold it, I at least won't hold it to it, but at least give us and the general public. Yeah. Again, to be transparent and open, and that for those who don't go to this meeting or opt to go to this meeting and then receive that bill a month later and then be wondering what's going on, at least we'll have prior notice that this is what we're looking at in terms of a rate change and be anticipating that. And we might have a better outcome of people attending meetings if they know what's coming down.
Also, would you agree, either Malcolm or Sarah, that this indirectly, this information kind of mirrors what we're hearing from the Rhode Island Department of Education? I mean, it's affecting our school department, we're told, in East Providence, as other cities have been told, that they can expect less state aid because the property values in East Providence have risen. And so has income, or even though all of us would disagree with that, we all feel like our income is not going up, but in effect, statistically, we're going to get less state aid, probably $600,000 less at this point, unless it changes.
I've been hearing about that number, and I forget exactly, it used to be like free and reduced lunches.
Yes.
And I think they've changed the criteria a little bit.
Yeah, they change the criteria, and that's I don't want to get off the track, but because less people that have children in schools are signing up for free and reduced lunches, it affects our state aid. So it's all part of the part. Councilman, did you want to add anything at this time?
So I'm good.
Okay, and I know we want to.
I got one more question. So we're talking about the pieces of legislation that we have pending up at the State House right now about tax, about levels and raising property taxes. That obviously that's going to impact where the rate is. So that's going to be something, they're up there till July. So they might not even take this piece of legislation until the end of July. We have tax bills that are due July 1. So how are we going to set this tax rate if we don't know if we're going to get any sort of relief from the state?
So this is a special law that is on the books for East Providence currently, and it's a law that, when I say special, it's a law that applied only to East Providence. We're changing that. We have confidence in the delegation, and the delegation knows the importance of getting this done before the tax bills get out. So they're pushing as hard as they can.
Well, I understand that I understand because one of them said to me that they're trying to push it, but we all know how that works, and they can push it, but it still has to go through hoops. It still has to go even from the House to the Senate, back and forth, and then to the governor's office. And I love our delegation; they're the best, but they're still handcuffed as far as how much they can push. And granted, we have people in great leadership positions up there from the city, but it's still a process, and we're up against the clock to make things work. So we're gonna. I mean, I hate to do this, but we're going to have some panicky people living in the city. And that's what I'm trying to avoid. Either, phone calls coming into us as the council people, the mayor's office, the assessor's office, everybody's office. There's going to be in the economic environment we're living in today. This isn't just a jump. This isn't like 20 years ago where houses went up. People are paying extra money for gas, et cetera, et cetera. We listen to it all day long in the newspaper. And now all of a sudden they're seeing their house values go up 50%. They're panicking. They're not going to know everything. And we can't properly set the rate. And if at some point the tax bills have to go out. So if they haven't brought it back from Providence yet, that means we have to send out a tax bill based on the current tax rate. He just said correct. So all of a sudden at my house, at somebody's house that was 220,000 is now 320,000, and they're going to get a tax bill based on $22 a thousand when we know that the levy at some point is going to go down, but we can't take it down until we get the paperwork from Providence.
And I'm confident that we had the hearing today, which is right after their vacation break. We've got insurance from the delegation that they're pushing hard. The mayor's office is pushing hard. This is a fast track bill. There's no question about it. They know the importance. The speaker has been informed of the importance of this bill and how it would affect the tax rate. So we're doing all we can to push the bill. Having been up there, I know that these local bills, this is considered a local bill. They do get passed and they get fast track. This doesn't affect any other city but the city
No,
responsible.
I mean, this is huge because of the way our tax system is set and everything. And that puts, I'm just trying to eliminate pressure on the tax assessor's office and Malcolm, because we could be, it could be a nightmare. And the last thing we want to do is to rebate people, because that technically would happen. I'm just hoping, I have confidence that the mayor can get this pushed through up there.
So it's obviously that we have a lot going forward. We're waiting for this legislation, which is just for East Providence. It's being fast-tracked. We are in the middle of this process. The letter goes out on the 17th, so we can't answer information tonight about rates. So I would say that there are people in the room, if you want to ask a quick question, if there's something you haven't heard, we are going to have more public hearings and things. I do need to get back to the agenda because we have other parties who were here and scheduled to be heard earlier, but we held them off. However, without objection, I would entertain if somebody has a question about this process that maybe something you haven't heard at all. Otherwise, we will certainly be revisiting this. But I would invite any of you to, if you want to ask something that we haven't discussed yet, please come forward. Otherwise, we'll be meeting a lot about this. For those who either here tonight or those at home who, because of the audio problems earlier in the evening, if you feel like you haven't picked up on the whole thing, we will make available to anybody. We have a copy of the presentation. We can maybe get it emailed, or maybe it'll be on the website, or I'll see that you get a paper copy. So just get in touch with us. Sarah, did you want to add something?
Yes, I just want to clarify one thing because
Yes.
I don't want people to panic.
Sure.
I know, Councilman Rigo, you said the tax rate of $22, that should not be applied to these new assessments because we are still going to be able to reduce the rate. So we're not going to be using that tax rate.
So you'll be, even without the legislation, we'll
Yes,
be
we still
be
have
able to
some-
reduce the rate. Okay, I thought
Yeah.
you were.
Wiggle room.
You got wiggle room. I knew you were waiting. You said you were waiting to adjust everything.
Yeah.
So that's great that you
The
clarified.
best case scenario is if the legislation passes. Either
Yeah.
way, we are going to adjust the rate downward.
Well,
Yes.
that keeps all that eases my mind a little bit as far as phone calls I'm going to get, because technically you couldn't do that. Technically, you'd have to go out with what it's set at right now. So that's good that we'll see that, and hopefully we'll get more. Between Michael and the mayor, they'll get the work done up at the State House.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Is it Mr. Nagel? Is that the correct name? Okay, thank you for your presentation. Don't sharpen that pencil too much. Go easy on us. Thank you, Sarah. Your presentation, appreciate it. Thank you to those here who, for your patience. We'll work on this together. At this point, Madam Clerk, could we revert back to the agenda? Should be page 3, maybe.
Yes, sir. Page 3.
I think licenses.
Next will be licenses for discussion and possible vote. For non-public hearing, we do not have any. For public hearing, we have the application for extended hours to open until 2 a.m. pursuant to Section 8-5B of the Code of Ordinances. And this is a new application. The applicant is Gustavo da Silva. The business name is Mina's Cafe. The address is 315 Waterman Avenue.
Is the applicant present? Hi, if you want to come forward for a second, I think there's been a misprint here. You're not really requesting the 2 a.m. as I believe. It's more like 12 midnight, and that's already allowable. But if you could confirm with us that that's your request.
Good evening. My name is Gustavo da Silva. Yes, so what I did is I tried to apply for 2 licenses, and I did not. I went back to the portal online, because I apply online, and I did not specify what time I was going to close. And it was my mistake, but it's probably why it's printed 2 o'clock. 2 a.m.
Okay, not a problem. And you realize you can stay open as it is now till 12 midnight. Is that correct, Madam Clerk? 1 a.m.? Okay.
They're allowed to stay open until 1 a.m. They have to be closed between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m.
Yeah, 1 a.m. I'm sorry, if you would have to come to the podium to speak, because it needs to be recorded, that's why. But, so, Madam Clerk, what is the request before us tonight?
The request before us, he did speak to the licensing clerk and he did request a 2 a.m. license and he went through the process. We had to send out an abutters list with the information that he paid for. So that was the request for extended hours and for dance and entertainment.
But he's amending his request now.
Now he's amending.
And we can amend it without, and he's amending it to what? That's where the 12 came in, right?
So yes, I do not plan on staying open till 2 o'clock. I was never part of a,
We don't plan on you staying open either till 2 o'clock. But your request is to stay till 12, and that's
That's
allowable?
that's allowed under current ordinance.
Currently, you can stay to 12. You don't need a vote for
No
that.
special approval needed by the council for viculating houses, which a restaurant is. They can stay open to 1 under the current ordinances, so he's closing at 12.
so the reason why I did it is because right now our current hours is from 11 to 9 o'clock. And I thought that I had to clarify and share that I was extending my hours. So I thought I needed a special permission, and that's why I came up. But
Right, okay. Well, you don't. You can stay till 12. Till 1 a.m. It's just saying 12, but you can stay till 1. So there's no action needed
all right.
on this. But there is a second,
Yes, the second is the application for a dance and entertainment license, which is also new.
Before we move on, I would just like for the record, this is not officially on record withdraw from this license for the record.
Yes, please. Please withdraw my application. Thank you.
he's withdrawing his request to 2 a.m. That was not going forward. So there is now a second request, application for a dance entertainment license, which is new.
That is also new. Gustavo da Silva is also the applicant at Mina's Cafe at 315 Waterman Avenue.
So, I have some questions for you, sir. For this license, how are you planning on using?
I plan on using by having probably local musicians. So it's I would consider like background music or so. It's very common in back at home in Brazil where we're from. It's a Brazilian steakhouse. Plan on having so it's like live music. The dancing itself, it's not going to be a dance club or a club. It would be if people get up to dance. I just don't want to have to just have them sit down. I don't know how specific we have to be with the license, to be honest, but that would be it. Live music would be, I mean, how I would describe it.
So.
Like a singer with a guitar or 2 singers, guitar, a piano or something, a keyboard, something
Just
like
trying to get the picture of how much
Yes.
music is going to be in the establishment.
that would be it. It's not I wouldn't consider like a band or concerts. That's not the plan, no.
And how many days a week would you be looking to have live music?
So the reason why we're doing is trying to increase the business. To start, I believe 1 or 2 days a week. And hopefully if it works out, it would be 3 days. I'm not sure. Probably the weekend from Friday, Saturday would be ideal to start.
What are you next to? I can't picture
The old part.
oh, okay.
Joseph's and everything else.
Which is a big building, right? And there's a lot of parking there.
Sure.
Okay, so we're talking about the old Paquettes or Joseph's Restaurant. There's moderate parking there. There's
And so, just one second. We're gonna opening it up to people to talk, so just give us a minute. Additionally, this is specifically for indoor music
Yes, ma'am.
only,
Yes, ma'am.
just to clarify. And you want to operate until what time?
Uh,
For live music.
no later than 12 o'clock.
Anything else, Councilwoman,
Not-
at the
not at
moment?
this moment.
Councilman, any other questions before we open it up to public hearing?
No, I defer to, I'll have questions after Councilwoman Souza, whose district it is.
Sure.
Let her take the lead.
Okay, so this time we'll open it as a public hearing. If anyone is present that wants to speak for or against this, please come to the podium. Give your name and address.
Yes, hello. Hi, my name is Rudy Boak. I live at 9 Cole Street. The restaurant abuts my property. We've lived there for over 30 years. We've had many restaurants come and go. When we got this proposal, we automatically were very upset because, I mean, a restaurant is a restaurant and a nightclub is a nightclub. And from the sounds of the way it sounded, it sounds to me like a nightclub. Now, okay, the council or the gentleman said that it was going to be 12 o'clock, or the council said it could stay open till 1. But I mean, 1 o'clock, I think that's, I mean, it's really a restaurant, you know, and I don't think it's right. I don't think a neighborhood, a public neighborhood, and like I say, my bedroom window is 5 feet from the parking lot. When they come out at 1 o'clock and slam their doors and things like that, I don't agree with it. As a restaurant, it was fine, but as dancing and entertainment, no. That's my opinion.
Yep, no, appreciate it. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hi.
Hi,
My name is
good afternoon.
Leroy Andrews. I also live butting the restaurant. There's been 5 restaurants there, and for the first 3, the neighborhood had no problem with any of them. They came in, they opened, they fed their people, and they left. Parquette's gave us a problem because they wanted to be seen from 6 corners. So they put multicolor lights all the way down the side of the building. It shined into everybody's house in the neighborhood. We had to get a lawyer's letter, the people of the neighborhood, to have them take them down. Before they left, they built an outside restaurant because of the pandemic, or outside dining, to the back of their building. When these people bought the building, they just brought it right to the front and put it in all our front yards. Their sign says they close at 9 o'clock. They're there 9, 10, 11 o'clock, especially outside. Now by 11 o'clock, they're drunk, they're rowdy. We can't even open our windows because that's all we hear. I'd like the council to have them put their restaurant, their outside dining back where it was, where it didn't disturb the entire neighborhood. We can't even open our windows in the summer because that's all we hear. Like he said, people are leaving now at 11 o'clock, disturbing the neighborhood again. Imagine at 1 o'clock. They're going to come out rowdy just the way they went in.
Thank you. You can stay. Madam Clerk, Mr. Solicitor, do we have regulations on outside dining? I know it's been an issue in the past.
So because of COVID, the state legislature passed a special bill, I think it expires in April of 2023, that prohibits cities and towns from prohibiting outdoor restaurants, serving outdoors. That law is set to expire at the end of April. So, yeah, so there are a couple pending that would extend that further, but right now, the current law is supposed to expire we do not have, as a matter of right, under our ordinances, outside dining is not allowed. So that
Right.
should stay. So anything that's happening outside is
Yes,
because of COVID.
right.
The city doesn't regulate that now. That's all state law. You can't regulate it. After April, they all have to be inside. Unless they extend the law again, but I don't know where that
Right.
status is.
That's what I thought, that we didn't allow
We
it.
do not allow it as a matter of right. But
If this, the state, as solicitor has said, if the state continues it, might be beyond our control, so people might want to contact your state legislators and let them know one way or another how you feel about that. But as of now, at the end of April, the outdoor dining has to stop.
I'll get to the exact date, but I
Sure.
think it's the end of April, but I'm
Right.
pretty sure it is.
They won't be allowed to have.
Well,
Correct, unless the state,
Unless the law gets
continues.
extended.
Councilman?
let's presume that it gets extended, which probably it will. But what the point of the matter is, if I remember right, when that was passed, each jurisdiction, or city or town, then had the approval as far as where it could be located. I mean, in this situation, and what this gentleman's saying, it was at one spot and got moved to another spot. We, as the zoning person, just like your house, if you want to build a deck and you can't put the deck in a certain spot, it's the same thing as far as this is concerned. I will almost bet that the Hospitality Association is going to get the outdoor dining extended. So in the meantime, to remedy that first problem, I mean, there's a lot of issues I see here, but that one, as far as the zoning officers of the city, we have the rights to say, yes, no, it can be here or there. Because part of that legislation was the police department had to approve make sure for safety reasons.
Safety reasons, not for.
Yeah.
Safety.
Well, but yeah, I
They
mean,
checked with them. They just moved
yeah,
it to where
but
they want.
that's what I'm saying. But I want to help I want to help every party involved.
Okay, do you have anything else to ask? Sir?
I'd ask you not to extend their hours and not to give them the entertainment license. The entertainment license inside, we may not hear it as much as the outside, but we're still going to hear the people coming and going at 1 o'clock in the
The
morning.
entertainment's one thing, the hours, the whole city has the same, 1 AM is,
Then I'd be against the entertainment also.
right. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is someone else, sir? Sure.
Hello, everybody. Frederick Shanley, 17 Cole Street. Neighbor of the Bocas who spoke first. We're against the entertainment for a lot of reasons. You know, like Mr. Boca had said, his bedroom and stuff is right literally up against the parking lot. I am right behind him. In the summertime, you have your windows open. You have company, you know, you're sitting outside or you're watching TV, and noise is just unbearable. You know, people don't realize it, you know? I don't know where you guys live, if you live out in the sticks of the country, but sometimes living in the city is a little bit different. And
Can I ask you to understand this? So there's no entertainment there now, correct? So the noise that you're referring to is
would be the license.
what,
for the
people
entertainment.
sitting outside? But there is no entertainment now. Correct. So what is the noise you're
Isn't he
hearing?
going for the entertainment license?
Yes,
Yeah,
but you're explaining how you already are hearing noise
Well, with the
in the
last
summer.
Parkettes, they had theirs outside on the
People talking, that kind of
sidewalk and
noise.
stuff.
Right.
They were playing the music, and it travels. I mean, you know, you're only, 50, 60 yards away. It travels. It extended hours, I'm against that. You said what, 12 o'clock?
1 o'clock is the
1 o'clock.
current limit.
We've seen with liquor licenses and entertainment, I've seen a lot more trash. I've come home at 11, 12 o'clock. You find people urinating on the side of the buildings because they're getting out late. I don't know. I'm just opposed against it. Like all our neighbors, we're tired of the noise. We're tired of the trash and all that stuff.
Yep,
So-
understood. Thank you.
Good.
Yes. If you could do it quickly, you'd have to come up here. Is there anyone who hasn't been heard yet that wants to speak?
Maybe they can just.
Yeah, why don't you, I was just going to suggest, if you have not spoken yet, why don't you line up so we have an idea, so we can try to move along the vote and the meeting.
We can sit here in the front row.
But we want to let everyone speak who, well, that's okay, you can.
We've had to
Again.
call the restaurant at 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning and ask them on a number of occasions to turn their radio off. When they put their outside dining out, they put outside speakers. They come in to prep in the morning and blast the neighborhood with their radio. They're very inconsiderate neighbors.
Understood, thank you. Yes, sir. Next.
My name is Milton Riggins. I live at 10 Gurney Street. Actually, my apartment is right in their parking lot. I hear Waste Management, with my windows closed, pick up their trash. That's early in the morning. When I moved there for the reasons of I like the neighborhood. It was quiet. I like keeping my windows open. I like fresh air. My windows are open year round. I hear people when they leave the restaurant talking, laughing, joking. If they tumble, spit, reach out, they're in my window. So I got to keep my windows closed now. I got to keep my blinds drawn. And I did not move there for this particular reason, to have and listen to things go on that time of the morning. He would like to keep his restaurant turn into a nightclub. You're working 5 days a week. Friday, you're all done. Friday night, the club stays open to 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. It repeats itself again Saturday. What days do I have off in peace for myself without hearing a bunch of noise or a bunch of other people? They're not listening to me. This is a problem that I'm having. I can't even open my windows now. I can't even keep my blinds open. I moved there because it was a peaceful area. I have nothing against the club, but if you're talking about entertainment gets out of hand very quickly. Well, we got this under control. You can't control if you're getting up in the morning. How can you control something else? I mean, that's all. I want to say that outside that I am totally against it. And if they walk in a lot and look up, they're looking in. I got 2 windows. You're looking either one of the windows.
Understood, thank you. Ma'am? Next.
Hi, I'm Corelia Braga. I own the property at 10 Gurney Street. I've been in that neighborhood. We started our family with a house across the street from 10 Gurney Street. I know that neighborhood well. That neighborhood is a family-oriented neighborhood. We've been through all those 5 restaurants. Mr. De Silva applied for the 2 o'clock a.m. Extended hours. That was his intent. Now we have opposition. Now he's withdrawing that intent to stay open to 2 a.m. A definition of a nightclub is an establishment for nighttime and entertainment, serving drinks and offering music and dancing. This is a nightclub. Whether or not he's withdrawing the 2 o'clock extended hours, this is a nightclub that we will have in our neighborhood. And our property values will go down because no one will want to buy in that neighborhood with a nightclub. I respectfully ask you to not approve the entertainment license, dance and entertainment license, out of the respect for the neighborhood and for our property values that you introduced to us earlier in the evening. And I do not believe that any of you would like this in your backyard. I know that neighborhood, and it's a wonderful neighborhood, and that's why Milton enjoys living there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Braga. Mr. De Silva, you want to add something?
So I wanted to kind of explain myself. There was a time where they, like he mentioned, but early in the morning when they go to prep and they start early in the morning and our hours are long hours most of the days. We had a little speaker outside and it was synced with the speaker inside the kitchen. And it was a mistake. They turned the music up in the kitchen while they were prepping the food. And the volume was loud, but they didn't know that the music was coming outside. At the time, there was nobody outside. It wasn't meant for the music to be blasting outside if it was, I don't know how loud it was. I apologize for it happening one day and all the days that it did. But as soon as we,
That's okay. Well, let the gentleman speak.
as soon as we heard and somebody called in, we shut it off completely. And if there's any issues, I can give you my personal number if it helps. I do not want to start anything that's gonna upset you guys. I do not plan on having a nightclub. I have to be clear. It's not a nightclub. It is a restaurant. It's very, the music won't be loud. I have to say, we also have a restaurant in Norwood, Mass. And we have applied for entertainment license there. And we had to go through this too. We had neighbors come out and complain that they were afraid that the music was gonna be too loud. And there was gonna be drunk drivers on the road. And we've had the license for like 5 years. We had 0 complaints ever since. In the town, they had a noise control, which 2 feet away from the window, if they heard, I don't know how they measured the noise, but if they heard the noise 2 feet away from the window, they could come and shut us down. I don't know if it's a regulation on the town there, but we do not plan on having the music going out of the room that we have. It's really more of, we have families that come by, they're local, they're nearby, and they ask from us to provide that. So really what we're trying to do is we're trying to stay alive, we're trying to raise business, and I do not plan on staying late hours. If there's trash outside, we have people that clean, we have people that maintain. But if there's something, anything that's bothering you, like the truck to pick up the trash, if they're coming too early, I don't know if there's laws that prevent them from coming that early, but I could always make a request from them to come in the afternoon if it helps. If it's something that bothers you, it's bothering me, please let me know. I can make calls, I can make it happen. It's a small thing for me to try to work on, but it can ruin your day, and I would be upset too, like you are. So the meaning of the license is to try to increase business and to try to please my customers. I do not plan on having a nightclub. I do not plan on having loud music outside of my establishment. And I will try to control everything I can in order for it not to upset you guys. And it won't be a DJ with flashing lights. It will be a singer with a guitar, and the music will be as low as people having dinner. They can communicate to each other, but it will be an attraction to bring people over, to bring families over to my restaurant. That is the purpose of it. It's common for this to happen where we're from, but there are laws on where we're from too. So that's the reason why we're coming here, and I try to be as clear as I can. If there's anything that I can do, if there's anything that's bothering you, and please call the restaurant. I can give my phone directly, and I will work to make it better. I'm not trying to make your lives any worse or anything like that. The extended hours, it was my mistake. I looked it up. What I did, I didn't put the number 2. I just left it blank. So I'm not requesting to remove it because I saw that people are upset. That's not the meaning. That's not the reason why I did it. It's because I made a mistake by not applying the hour that I plan on having open.
So
Okay, thank you. Councilman Vigo?
I have a couple questions. You're planning on having this entertainment just on Friday and Saturday night or every night?
Not every night. I think we're starting, I think we're probably gonna have one day a week, see how it goes. If we bring enough people, maybe a second day a week. I can be more specific when I know the results. I can communicate with the city. I'm not sure.
And what time do you start serving dinner? What time do you start? What's your first sit?
So
What time-
we open at 11 o'clock.
Yep.
Yep. And then
Okay.
we close at 9 today.
And what time is usually dinner, say like on a Friday night? When do you perceive, what's your time for a dinner crowd? Starting at 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
How many turns do you average a weekend?
So,
How many times you're turning your tables?
so we're different from the other restaurant that we have. We have a crowd that it's more nighttime versus the other restaurant. We have more lunch crowd. But the average table takes 30 to 45 minutes to turn.
So how many times a night on a Friday night at the East Providence location are you turning your tables? What, you getting 2 turns, 3 turns? How many?
If I say 3 turns, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure that that's the right answer, but I would say 3 turns.
Okay, so starting at 5 o'clock.
But the thing is, we're
No,
open all
I'm
day long.
trying to,
Yeah.
so if you turn at 5, you're turning that table for sake of argument, you're turning it, say an hour, hour and a half. So 6:30, you're turning that table again. After people eat, sit down and do everything. So about 6:30, you're on your second turn.
Sure. Yeah.
Give it, again.
Yes.
So your third turn is about 8 o'clock. So Pete, the average time somebody's sitting at the restaurant, anything like that, we're around like 9:30 again.
Okay.
And this is only for basically what you want is ambiance for the people sitting down at your restaurant.
Yes, sir.
So you really shouldn't have entertainment past 9:30, 10 o'clock, if anything, because it's all for ambiance.
But
It's all for, you just said it in the beginning, you said it was to attract more people to come and eat and everything like that. And you just answered to me 3 turns.
so
And I just laid it out to you, an hour and a half each time.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
So I don't know. So today, if let's say my tables turn 3 times, okay. But if I have people staying longer, they could be spending more money, or I could be attracting more people to come and do more turns, which attracts more money to me. I don't understand what the point of the observation.
Well,
The reason
the point of it is,
I look to add tools to my business is to increase sales.
So let me interject. What the councilman, I think, is asking, and I'm not saying I support this yet, but can you live with the restriction of it ends at 10? Or does that not help you?
I think the public, that my customers would probably appreciate to stay a little longer. But I mean, I would love to see something happen.
So you wouldn't accept? Or you?
I would love to see something happen for us, but I think it would be such an attraction for them that they would like to stay a little longer.
but
Okay,
it's a
I think
food,
the
it's a
point's
food,
made. Let's-
it's a food establishment. I'm trying to work with everybody here.
Yes,
And you're a restaurant first.
yes.
So the 3 turns, when I go in and order food,
Mhm.
it starts with food. So after you're done with the 3rd turn, and knowing in the area and everything like that, could you get somebody at 10 o'clock at night coming in and ordering a great steak that you have there, food and everything? But the chances are probably not. what you're gonna end up doing is just people sitting around drinking a little bit more, and then we have problems with the neighbors. So I'm trying to be realistic. I'm trying to help you. You got attraction. Now you have entertainment. You can promote yourself as a restaurant with great Brazilian music. And I'm just trying to come up with a compromise because these people, they live there. That's where they sleep. That's where they live. That's where they raise their families. And I'm pro-business. So, but we got to work together. You are at your zone for a restaurant, but they're zone residential. So we got to I want to come up with a compromise.
So I,
So, I mean, you have nothing now, and I'm offering you an olive branch to work and give you something, but ultimately I'm going to defer to the councilwoman who lives in that district, who represents that district. I'm just trying to come up with the compromise because, again, we all live somewhere, and they live there.
Okay, can we move on? Do you have anything new to add?
I would just add that I'll leave it at that. I mean, I would just say that tables won't turn. I won't have customers coming in at 10 o'clock, but I'm having families stay longer and enjoying the process of being at my steakhouse. That would be the answer to my adding the 2 to it. I wouldn't be expecting people to come in at 11 o'clock for a new meal. I understand that. But they're extending their experience at my restaurant, they will appreciate what I'm doing for them, which will result in more business for me and more customers coming back. That's the reason why behind it.
Okay. Is there anyone else that wants to add? Anyone here to speak in favor of this request?
Council President, we did have a Suzette Seamus sign up. Did you want to speak? All set? Okay.
Okay, I'll ask once again before we close the public hearing, anybody else that wishes to speak either for or against? Yes, ma'am. Come forward, please.
So as you're coming up, ma'am, please just continue, yeah. I just want to know if the neighbors, again, to be business friendly with people that come into that restaurant, if there's any room for compromise on any of this, because as you know, there are restrictions that can be placed on licensing, so it doesn't end. There are probationary periods that could be offered to see if things they stand up to what it is that they actually say they're going to do and be good neighbors. That would be something that you would consider entertaining, because again, we do want to be business friendly in the city and make sure that people do not succeed in the city when they've invested in our community. And it sounds like the gentleman wants to be good neighbors, though I understand that has not been the case by the testimony that the residents have brought forward. I would hope that now having heard all of the testimony from the abutters, that the owner would be more vigilant about what's going on. Because I don't expect that you're there day to day during the operation per se, having multiple locations, but it is quality of life that it does interfere with. And that's a big concern in our community, is having good quality of life, even living in a mixed residential area.
So let's try this, Councilwoman. Rather than have everyone yell out or come forward, by a show of hands, is there anyone here who would accept a compromise that we already know they can stay open until 1 o'clock? That's a given. Every business in the city can. So that's a given. Is there anyone here that would approve of a compromise that if we restrict this music to, say, a 1 or 2 person, no more than that, and that it ends at 10:30, and that it has to be inside, and that he agrees to no outside music? Is it, by show of hands, would anyone support that as a trial compromise with a 6-month review? And if it doesn't work, it could be rescinded.
And I think.
So I see no hands.
I
Okay.
think to his saying only 1 day a week is another compromise that he's offering. I don't, again, know if that's
Sure.
something that the public is willing to tolerate.
Why, yeah, I'm sorry, because of the, why don't we let this young lady ask you question, and then you can come up, sir.
My name is Gabrielle Boker. I live on 9 Cold Street. And this is my husband. And I'm for business. I see East Providence booming, and this is all wonderful. It really is. However, you cannot sell me this. This was it's a restaurant, and it's not gonna be a night. It is a bar. I understand what he wants. He wants to sell more liquor because liquor brings money. This is, any business knows that. The longer you in the bar, the longer you in the restaurant, the more you drink. And this is where the revenue is. It's not necessarily on the state. But the problem is, and it's not his fault, it's the people. You come out, you're drunk. I see it. I hear it. And I'm afraid to yell over to the fence and say, please, people, be quiet. Go in your car and go home. Because I'm afraid to shoot me, maybe. You know, things we're living in a crazy time. We are old people. We go to bed tonight. I have no problem if he's at 10 o'clock and has inside music. Paquette did that. Was actually sometimes even nice to hear. I have no problem with this, but this is not a restaurant anymore. This is gonna be a nightclub. And I love Brazilian people, I really do. But they love to dance, they love to have music, all good, and they love to drink, like we all do. And
Right.
what I'm experiencing at 1 o'clock in the morning or at 12 o'clock in the morning, running their cars, one, in and out, laughing. This is the problem. It's the liquor. And the reason he wants that extended time is because of the liquor, not because of a restaurant and open up longer. And I understand this. It's not the right place. It's a family restaurant, always has been. Started with Joe Joseph's and with all the other ones were there. It's, I really wish you good luck. But I know what it is. It's gonna be liquor. And you know that's where the money is.
Okay, I'm going to thank you. You
Thank you.
repeated that, but appreciate that. Something new, sir? Yep.
I think a lot of people are afraid of compromise because compromise just brings the water level a little bit higher for the next time around, and then the next owner has more privilege to start off right off the bat because the last one had it, and before you know it, we're all buried and red tape and all sorts of stuff.
Yep.
My question is also was, the gentleman said that, he'd like to have quiet music, folk guitars or something like that. What would keep him at that promise? Why couldn't he just bring in a rock band someday or whatever the case may be? And then litigation has to start all over again and people complain and the police.
Well, if we restrict that, I mean, it maybe isn't smoothly done overnight, but
Right.
that can be stopped. If neighbors were to hear it or see a full band in there, our police can enforce restrictions that we have listed. So one way or another, it would stop. Might not be that night, but it would stop. We have done this in the past in this community quite successfully. Keep in mind also that they can play music now through a stereo system. Any restaurant can do that.
Right.
And they could pump it up loud. They could have, so it may not be two people on a guitar singing, but they could pump up a stereo system pretty loud. They can do that without anybody's permission. Now, there are ordinances against noise control. We do have, our police does monitor upon request with decibel meters. Again, it isn't done overnight, but if they were to pump up stereo music loud all the time, we could kind of control that eventually. But I'm saying a compromise of sorts is workable. And what happens is they would come back before the council. If we're hearing from neighbors again and others that it hasn't worked, we would revoke the license. But, you know, we may not do that at all if, depending on what the vote is tonight.
Understand. All right, thank you.
Yep, thank you. All right, at this point, I am going to close the public hearing. We'll ask the council if you have any closing comments, and then we can move along, and I'll entertain a motion. We're only talking about the entertainment license now.
So,
Councilwoman.
having spoken with residents in the neighborhood, being at the establishment, knowing the history of that restaurant and where it's located, there are a few things that are concerning, right? So we have where the restaurant is located is currently in a one-way direction, and we know that that in itself, in that general area of Six Corners, has been a huge problem because people sober come down that road the wrong way, let alone somebody who's had a few beverages late in the evening. So traffic safety has been something that has been a concern of mine in that general area to begin with, and then now potentially having this type of establishment or what could come out, and again, not due to the owners of the restaurants, but again, the patrons and people have free will to make poor choices and not use better judgment. That is a high-risk concern that people would be coming out of that restaurant in the wrong way and causing accidents or a safety issue. That being said, there's also really no buffer in that area to protect any of the residents that abut that neighborhood. There are small lying bushes, so buffering any sound or from the parking lot for patrons that flow out at night, and we know that people linger. That's just how it works. Nobody's ever ready to go home, especially after a good night. So they do congregate in the parking lots and at their cars, again, disrupting the quality of life in the neighborhood. And I'm a big supporter of business, but quality of life is really important because we are the people who make the community along with our businesses, but we have to sleep and rest and raise our families here. So I do have concern about what could potentially aspire in that area at that restaurant with the license. I would hope that we could come to a compromise, but I'm not seeing that that's something that at the moment the neighborhood is interested in moving forward with. So for me, until there is a compromise on both ends that is reasonable, because again, I think everybody should be business friendly and we want to keep businesses in the city, and that building has been vacant for a long time at some points, and that doesn't do well for property values or the city. But I think there's work to be done, and I don't think that it's gonna, in my opinion, be something that I could support tonight.
We've kind of closed comments, but did you have something very important to add, Mr. Silva? Seeing how it's your petition, I'll allow you to.
I just wanted to make a statement because I feel like it's all towards my direction. If I were to make a compromise, I can go as late as 10 o'clock and I would be satisfied with the live music. And you can restrict written on the license that I could have no more than 2 singers. The noise, like you mentioned, I could have stereos on louder than what I have today, than what it will be with a singer or 2 singers. So that's just pointing out. And I don't think I think with fairness, you guys are afraid that it's going to turn into something. And I'm being judged as if it is now, and it's not. Because today I close at 9 o'clock. So it's not fair for me to be pointed out as if I'm staying up late and they're leaving at 2 o'clock when it's not happening. And you guys are not giving me the benefit of the doubt that it won't happen. If I stop the music at 10 o'clock and people are leaving, or if they're going the wrong way, I mean, some things are out of my control. There is law enforcement out there that will prevent that from happening. I don't think the traffic, I don't think it's going to increase. I mean, I would be so happy if there was so many business, but I don't think I'm increasing my business. If I increase 20%, it's significantly to me on my pockets. But I don't think it's going to be 100 cars parked outside because of this small action that I'm asking for.
So your offer of a compromise would be no more than 2 entertainers,
Yes, sir.
singer and a guitar, or 2 singers,
Yes,
no
sir.
more than that. It ends at 10 p.m.
10 p.m. the music stops.
It's strictly indoors,
Yes, sir.
no outdoor music.
Yes, sir.
And what else could we restrict? That's pretty much I mean, the other problems seem to be happening with or without music. You got to work on that. The trash truck in the morning. I know I have, when Mega picks up the trash bins in my neighborhood, I'm 7 o'clock in the morning, I hear the trucks. That's all over the city. Now, if it's before that time, then that's different, but hopefully you would work on other things. And I don't know, I'm just throwing this out. Those would be the restrictions. Again, by a show of hands, is that still unacceptable to the neighbors? Remember, he can pump up stereo music and do other things. Okay, so you don't want 10, so there's no compromise from the neighborhood, but okay. With that, is there a motion on the floor to either approve or reject this request?
I make a motion to deny at this time the request on the table.
Motion by Councilwoman Souza to deny the request. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Motion is made by Councilwoman Souza, seconded by Councilman Rigo to deny the request. Madam Clerk, would you call a roll in this case?
Yes, sir. Councilman Fogarty,
Aye.
Council Vice President Rigo,
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza,
Aye.
Council President Rodrick.
Aye. And the motion to deny passes 4-0, 1 member absent. Thank you. Could we revert back to, thank you everyone for your participation on both sides. Could we revert back to, is it page 3? Is it communications?
We move to council members.
I'm sorry.
Next item would be council members. Did you want to?
Okay, can proceed. I see one department head,
2.
recreations here, Diane. So are you here for this?
Oh, and Dan's here too.
And
Dan's
Dan,
here
so
also,
is that
Dan.
number 1 that Diane would speak on?
No, Diane would speak on number 3.
3, right, okay, so,
Yeah, we would, and I would,
yeah, at this
Diane
point,
was here
we'll
early,
move
like,
to
go
number
to
3
three
if
first.
Diane Sullivan would like to come forward, and if you could read item 3, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Recreation Department updates of rules and regulations related to field use permits. Discussion only. Council Vice President Rigo.
Councilman, proceed.
I'd like to thank Director Sullivan for attending tonight. We had a meeting a couple weeks ago with you, and I just want to see where the update are as far as spring season's right around the corner.
Right.
And again, I want to stress that this has nothing to do with the local leagues, but it's local leagues that might want to sublease the field or run tournaments that pertain not to their local league, that we want to have more enforcements because it costs the city money as far as trash pickups and rental of fields. As we know, our neighboring communities charge for events like that. Again, this has nothing to do with the local little leagues or local soccer or anything like that. This is for non-participating, non-city participants.
Right, and and thank you for moving me up the agenda. I appreciate it. Yeah, when we had those discussions, Councilman Rigo, the pressing issue appeared to be the matter of subleasing, and these are leagues, organizations that would pull permits and then not use the facilities and kind of sell them off or let other organizations. So this causes a big problem. It's against the policy. It breaks the law. It drains our city resources because they make a mess and up and leave, and nobody's accountable for that. And there's also the liability issue. These organizations do not produce their necessary insurance and so forth. So in a way of trying to jumpstart this, this draft revision, which Solicitor Marcello had included in your meeting packet, this is just kind of a jumping off point. And we were talking about the possible, how the three strikes method is maybe not, doing the job here, and something with a little more bite. So if we instill a fine, whereas you're found to be subleasing your permit, we would instill a fine. I just put we were talking around the $450, $500 mark. So I just put this here for your consideration, with your pleasure, and you and the counselors would like to do. But I think this is something that can be enacted quickly, something, a step that can be taken, because the season hasn't started, and we can notify the leagues and say, look, this is going to take place.
And if I could interject, all these four of us here tonight, and I know Councilman Lawson also, we are all close and good supporters of all of the recreational leagues in our city. And as you said, Councilman Rigo, this is not against them. However, we have to remember that at times there are abuses. An outside group doesn't just come in, use the field. They get word of it from a local group. So we need to get the word. And I personally, and I'm okay with this policy, personally, I think we have policy. We just got to tighten it up a little and let these local leagues know that you cannot sublet out. Most of them don't. There've been maybe a couple of abuses recently. But that's the problem as I see it. If I'm running X Little League in East Providence, and I say, oh, we're not using the field this weekend, I'm going to let this team from Attleboro come in and use it, and they pay my league, that's a no-no. And that's what we want to stop. 99% of the leagues in the city are following the rules and higher, but we just have reason to want to tighten it up.
Yourself and Tony have done a good job, prior to 2021. And then Tony did some investigation along with you and found out what was going on. And the strikeout policy, I think I like the $500 fine, a little bit more meat to it. I mean, because 3-strike policy, I do 2 strikes in a year. I still got 2 strikes. I can let it go and not get the 3rd strike. But $500 right away, it changes the tune of things.
Right. Absolutely.
And the other, one last thing, then I'll go to you, Councilwoman. The important thing of permitting is not so much, what is a permit? Maybe $50? Or it varies, I know.
Correct, yeah. Athletic fields tend to be more expensive because of the maintenance, lining of the fields.
Right. And it isn't necessarily a money-making thing for the city or for recreation. Every few dollars helps. But it's to let the staff know that on a particular day or a weekend, there's a game or a tournament, so that they can have trash barrels ready, or they can empty trash barrels, they can line the fields. They need to know that there's a tournament, especially on a weekend, Saturday, Sunday, long tournaments. So that's the purpose of permitting, and that's why anyone in the city wants to use a field or property, a park, you need to get a permit. You want to add, I'm sorry, then Councilwoman Souza?
100%, yeah.
So I just wanted to clarify, because it's not, to me, specific on here. With the subleasing of the field, is the fine being set to the person who holds the permit? Or is it to, because it doesn't specifically identify?
You're right. And again, Councilwoman, this is just a rough draft, an idea put forth there. And that's why I included organizations and or individuals, because certainly there are individuals that may say, I'm gonna, my local church or my family, we're going to permit a ball field or so far, or a basketball court. And the same goes with, so an organization, whoever takes that permit out, their organization is responsible, because they do have to produce their certificate of insurance, and whoever name is on there, they're responsible. Whoever takes the permit out, that's why we have them sign. They have to sign their permit and get them back to the office, so we have them on file.
So it's safe to say the person signing the permit would be fined under this
Correct. Yeah.
policy.
Yeah.
So if it's one of our city little leagues or soccer leagues or cheerleading or football, they take out the permit and someone else, and they sublet it out to someone else, they get the fine, not the outside agency. The locals getting the fine.
So
Okay.
I would just ask, because that's not clear in that specific line, it just speaks to subleasing, that would be a little bit more black and white.
We can work on it. I think, I don't know what page you're looking at.
10,
If you look at page 16.
Mhm.
It says a lot of permits are non-transferable, so that tells me that it goes to the permit holder. The permit holder.
Yep.
can't transfer it.
yeah, just so
We'd
I
say
could
none.
see somebody.
That's important
Yeah,
to
I
know
just
that.
wanted
You know,
to know
looking
what-
for gray area.
Right, right. And whatever, I just wanted to not delve too deeply until, I got the,
Sure. No, I appreciate everything you've done, and Councilman Rego for bringing this to a forefront. I think signage is important here. I hate to add more to, I don't know if it's DPW, they make enough signs as it is, but I think we need to redouble our efforts for some signage, not only permits required, no dogs allowed, no golf allowed. We want to have nice parks and fields. We got to keep them that way. You go in some other cities, you go on a baseball field at a golf club and start whacking balls around, the police are there. And I'm not saying, we're going to have a field cop now, but maybe some signs, at least to cover ourselves. And I know that at Pierce Field, one day I asked a young man to take his large dog. He was running around the field, kicking up grass, to remove him. And he said, "Where does it say I have to do that? There's no sign here." And there was a sign, but it was kind of faded out, probably been there for a while. So over the course of the year here, not saying tomorrow, but
Yeah, it's an education too, and the use of
Yeah.
technology and outreach
Sure.
To the community, using our social media venues and public announcements, public service announcements. I think that will do the job.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
The permits that are issued,
Mhm.
do they actually, is there a physical permit that's issued to the organization? Does that permit right on it say non-transferable, these are not to be transferred?
Yeah, I believe so.
Just make
Well, it
sure.
did- yeah.
Yep.
If not, we have not made that. That's a good point to add that too. But it goes directly to and that person has to sign it. So it's essentially they are the.
so will you rework
So I
for
think
the
what-
next meeting?
Yeah,
And
I think what will happen is, I think the Recreation Department has the ability under the current ordinance to devise their own policies. We just work on this policy, and I think what the councilman wanted is to follow up with an ordinance that would
Okay.
enforce the policy.
I totally agree, because
Yep.
having been to many tournaments through my lifetime, it's important that the recreation department knows, and then in communication with the local police and fire, because those blue and red cups aren't filled with water. And by the end of the day, there can be some rowdy people, so it keeps the law enforcement involved, that it isn't bad to have a pass through.
thank you. Do you have anything else for Director Sullivan?
No, thank you.
Thank you
Diane.
very much,
You're very
Diane.
welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate
Oh,
it.
I have one thing. While she's here, I want to thank her and Albert and everybody else. I happened to share some time on the Heritage Days, so I
Yeah.
just want to thank you. Diane did a great job for my
Thank
10
you.
years
Yes,
on
you-
there, so I just want to say thank you, Diane.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
So we can revert back to, I know Director Borges is here. Would that be for number
Item number
1
1.
and 2, right? Or,
And
so at this time, Director, I see you're on your way, and we will go to Madam Clerk, if you could briefly read the summation of 1 and 2.
he's also here for 7. So I'll read
The
the
separate issues, but
Okay.
both for Dan, right? Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. So item number 1 will be upgrades to Glen Lyon Field in budget from previous council discussion only. Council Vice President Rego. Item 2 will be the replacement of Rumford Gardens sign at the Pawtucket, Wilson, and Hoyt Avenues corner. That's Council Vice President Rego. And then item number 7 will be the traffic safety study on Lyon Avenue and surrounding neighborhoods with Councilwoman Souza.
All right, Director Borges, if you want to, we did touch base before on number one. Do you have an update for the councilman on that? You have a specific question?
Yeah, after doing more research and speaking with Senator Brito, there was a line item in the budget now that just not for the lights for the baseball field, but there's money in the budget for to replace the walk around and to put lights around the walk around. That's what this is about. And then obviously like to see where the netting's going on. I was up there today and
So we have, there's 250,000 allocated. 150 was allocated in 22 for walkway lighting. So we're in the process of working on some alternatives there. We're still debating whether we go with a solar powered option or something that is tied to the grid. We'd like to go solar powered. It's going to be a little easier for installation. I think we'll save some money, but we're still working on that.
I'd like to go with the solar power.
Yep. So that's kind of where we stand. As for netting, I think that's something that we can work on out of the general budget.
And
That's, these funds are allocated for lighting.
Probably from that lighting account because there wasn't
Yeah.
enough to do the lighting.
yeah, the resurfacing of the walkway can that be fixed? I know that was one of the issues. People are saying that you can go look at it.
Yeah, for the most part, it's in fairly good shape. There are some areas that need to be replaced, and we'll have the highway department, make repairs as needed, crack seal.
And when do you see this starting? As a couple of people have already asked me, because it's a popular walk around, and with the season of outside walking coming, when do you foresee this starting?
Yeah, we can certainly, as soon as the asphalt plants open up, we can begin to resurface areas of the walking paths. I mean, the lighting will obviously take some more time. As you know, we have a lot of capital projects on the list, so trying to juggle and prioritize those is obviously a challenge with the limited staff we have. So as for the walking paths, we can certainly make those repairs, in the very near future in the spring.
Thank you. Before I go to number two, though, I need to have the clerk read it, but first I want to thank you. Past couple of weeks as I leave my house and on the way home coming today, this afternoon, I was coming back to my home office. I stopped. Your crew is doing a great job at Freedom Green. You can already see the improvements going on there. So I want to tip the hat off to Mr. Montero that was down on the crew. That's the only gentleman I knew. I met the other two, but they were doing a fine job down at Freedom Green. You can already see the improvements with the brush being picked up and everything. And I want to thank you for for that already happening.
We have great staff in DPW, and I'm happy that we're able to work as efficiently as possible and addressing a lot of the great parks that we have in the city. So
Thank you, Director. The clerk did read number two, so
She did?
you can go
Okay,
into
I
your
just wanted
question.
to make sure. Okay, so Dan, you're probably familiar with this. This is the garden that was started in 1950, and then it's been reconfigured a couple of times. It used to have a hanging sign that hangs from the post, but it all but disappeared because it keeps on getting taken away. It's gone now again. What I propose is just like the signs that we keep it unified throughout the city, how you have the ones that say welcome to Riverside, the blue signs that we have everywhere, to put one of those in there, recognizing Rumford Gardens, that it was erected I got all the information, 1951, and we have the consistent sign, we have the consistency throughout the city of those nice blue signs that are there. That's what I'm asking, instead of the one that just hangs, from your many days going to St. Margaret's, you must have saw the sign.
I'm actually not entirely familiar with it,
Okay.
but if you send the information,
I will, I feel that, yeah.
1950, do you have any pictures?
Oh, I have a picture. I got one of the original members sent me the picture, so yeah.
If just so you're aware too, I may have mentioned this before to the council. We're actually working on developing a uniform design for all of our park signage, which ultimately will start rolling itself out, hopefully soon. And we can certainly, add that park to, or that area to that similar signage so that everything is uniform, consistent throughout the city. So if you send me that info, I can certainly look into getting that erected.
Thank you,
That shouldn't
Councilman.
take that long, right?
No, as long as the design for the citywide signage is complete, and I don't have an update on that, but I can certainly
Okay.
send you something via email.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Dan, we'll go to number 7 we're on page 4. The traffic safety study that Councilwoman Souza has requested. So Councilwoman.
As I mentioned, the last council meeting, Lions Ave is a very busy road that runs along a neighborhood school, Piercefield. We have one stop sign along that, 2 stop signs actually towards the latter end. But the blocks on Lion Ave are really long. On the docket, you'll see that there's an ask for a stop sign. I know that there was some concern, Dan, that you felt that, maybe there was a study, from an engineering perspective, that there was potentially a conflict having a stop sign there. Certainly, I'm not an engineer, so I'm not going to really contest your knowledge on that. But I do know that just as a lane person in that area, there are grave concerns because it's a high pedestrian walkway. There's a school, children walk to and from that area. And again, there are large blocks. So from Warren Avenue to the first stop sign is pretty long. So having that stop sign as proposed tonight, to me, it makes sense. But to, always to be on the side of caution and to get empirical evidence, I would entertain and ask that if one hasn't been done, maybe in the last 5 to 10 years, a study for the traffic on Lions Ave, just for us to have a better understanding of how much traffic flow. I mean, we know that it's a lot, but what empirically is it?
Yeah, so I've already actually talked to the chief, and he's already put up that equipment that tracks the vehicle traffic. So that'll track traffic count as well as speed. So we'll get all the data that we need to make the appropriate recommendation for that intersection. I think it was Line at Moran.
Correct. Mhm.
So we can. That typically takes about a week. So he's already put the collector up. So I'd imagine by the end of next week, that data should be received by my office, and then I can look at the traffic count and provide a recommendation accordingly.
All right. Would you mind, once you have that data, if you could forward it to the clerk and have that then subsequently forwarded to me or CC me on it? Because I'd like to see that information and then move from there. Because I do think even having maybe one of those speed signs on that road would be advantageous because of, again, people, once you leave that red light, people are like, I'm going. And I know having put that stop sign at the intersection of Juniper a couple of years ago has made that area a lot safer for those living in the area and the students. And so I know that it probably would be just as safe to do it at that intersection before. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Dan, on the same page on number 4, we'll hold off on most of that discussion. Councilman Lawson, who was ill tonight, but he did ask me to just ask you if you know of any movement yet on the slab for the building. Is there any?
Yeah, I don't know if Napoleon has some information, but
Okay.
I know that Tracy, we had a department head meeting earlier in the week, and she did indicate that pricing for architectural services is going to be Friday. We'll be receiving those Friday.
Yeah, she submitted, put out an email to all the state MPA architects, and she's waiting. It closes on Friday, I believe, at 4 p.m. We'll have more information then.
And this is specifically for this slab for the
Slab for the building as well.
building as well. And okay,
The landscape area.
sure. Okay, I'll pass that along. Thank you.
All right, so if I could,
Yes.
Deputy Clerk, if we could just put this item again on the next docket, just so, then it could be, I know the councilman will probably receive the update, but just for public knowledge, I'm sure he'd want.
The same, yes,
Yeah.
sure.
So just carry this over to the next docket, so it's open for public transparency, and then if he doesn't want to discuss it and just wants to report out on it, then he can.
Will do. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, Madam Clerk, we jumped around on you here. Next,
2, 3, 4,
might be number
5.
5.
But your item up next. City Clerk vacancy approval of job description, job posting, and hiring procedure. Discussion and possible vote. Council President Rodrick.
Okay, so often discussed, if you recall from the last meeting. So an updated job description was sent around. I think a couple of council members sent in some comments, either additions or deletions. I haven't heard anything more specifically. So what I'm asking for tonight is, as you see in the packet, we are prepared. We have the municipal job search ready to go. And I'll just read off a quick outline of what I'm asking for approval for tonight. That, and you all have this, but that the process for hiring the city clerk will begin after, and if there's approval tonight, that job will be posted tomorrow, Wednesday, March 8th. I am going to appoint a subcommittee to initially review applications and recommend 3 to 5 finalists to the full council for council interviews and subsequent hiring. If 3 or 5 names are sent to the full council and any individual member saw an application that they would like to interview and wasn't part of the finalists, you could add up to 1 name. So we don't want to make the process too cumbersome. So that would start tomorrow. It would be about a 2-week period, a search period, which worked well the last time. We got in plenty of applications in that window of time. So by March 21st, 2023, that the city clerk application period would then close. I talked to the HR director, and he nor any other department head will not get directly involved in the process at all, keeping it strictly a city council process. But somebody has to collect applications and do some physical things. So he has suggested that he would assign person in the clerk's office, her name is Joan Kazarian, that she will, HR, sorry about that. And she will receive and maintain the confidential applicant file. On March 22nd, which would be the Wednesday, the packets probably, the applications closed on the day before. So probably the next day, the packets would be made available to all city council members. After the March 23rd date, the subcommittee will meet to review applications. Now that date's a little flexible. They'll decide when they can actually meet. By April 4th, 3 to 5 finalists for the city clerk position will be submitted by the subcommittee to the full city council. Basically from the applicant pool, and we could each add 1 name if you think someone else should be looked at. And after April 5th sometime, the interviews will be scheduled with the full council, and we'll set up details if we're going to do that in public or an executive session. We'll decide that at that time or later. Of course, everything has to be in accordance to Open Meetings Act, and will be publicly noticed and advertised. And the hope is that by April 18th, which is flexible, the city clerk appointment will be made. So that's pretty much the process. Keep in mind a little common sense. If I said a certain date, it might be the next day if they have to get the paperwork ready. But I think that's a good policy to follow, a procedure. You've seen the job requirements, the salary range, has been set, and we as a city council will determine the exact final salary, but it's up to $70,000 annually. We all thought that it probably would be the 70, but it depends on what the subcommittee recommends and with the qualifications. So we would get all that process done, and that's it. We start the ball tomorrow. So you have the packet. What is your pleasure?
I don't have any objection. I think everything has put a lot of detail and looked at and vetted multiple times through this current council and other stakeholders. And I'm perfectly fine with what's presented tonight and make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Councilwoman Souza. Is there a second?
I second that we move on this matter.
Councilman Rigo seconds. Madam Clerk, could you please read the roll of members present?
Yes, sir. Councilman Fogarty?
Aye. Excuse me, 1 second.
Clear. So, one councilman, there are some edits that's in the second job description that I think Councilman Lawson.
Yeah, I think there was
I'm going to
a couple of them were grammatical.
I'm going to incorporate those.
Yes.
There was a couple, I think there was another one that was in the final draft that the council used last time that we've got to put in there, but
Yes.
as long as we keep to that general format, and I'm
That
going to
same
add anything,
format.
but okay, all right. Just want to make sure I have that authority to make those.
Yes, thank you. You do. You'd call the roll.
Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. Clearing it up.
Councilman Fogarty?
Aye.
Council Vice President Rigo?
Aye.
Councilwoman Souza? Council President Rodrick?
Aye. It passes 4-0. One member absent.
Next,
So the next item, Deputy Clerk, is the appointment of the City Clerk Search Committee. This doesn't really require a vote, but without objection, and if you want to object or say something about it, please feel free. But I'm going to ask Councilwoman Souza and Councilman Lawson to be on a search committee. I'm going to add a third person, and that person is a former city clerk, Mrs. Valerie Perry, who was a longtime city clerk, also wore the hat of being a former city councilwoman, and I think currently is still doing some active things with the Rhode Island Statewide Clerks Association. So she would probably offer some valuable insight along the way with procedures and things of the office. I would ask if she accepts it, that Councilwoman Souza would chair this committee. And if you from tonight going forward, will take care of scheduling when you three will meet. Get in touch with Councilman Lawson, Mrs. Perry, and
Subcommittee in conformance with the open meeting law as well.
the meetings of the subcommittee, okay? So you work that out with the solicitor, okay? If you need any help from me, let me.
You read my mind about having Councilwoman Souza chair it, but I have a question for the solicitor. Since this is these are personnel matters, the subcommittee, they can meet going through it. Shouldn't they be able to meet in, I mean, you post it, but they can meet privately to go, okay, I just want to clarify that they're not subject to open meeting, but it's the executive session.
They got to open a meeting.
Yeah,
openly, and go to close, just like we do.
Same thing. I just wanted to make sure I was on the same page.
Just want to
Thank
make
you.
sure they post it. They got to post it when they're actually meeting.
That's your problem. if They don't.
That's your problem.
I've heard that in the past, when there are violations, it's the solicitor who goes to jail. So if
Luckily, we
there's-
haven't had any violations since I've been here. So
Okay, so that's done. If there are no objections, thank you both and thank you all. Madam Clerk, can you continue?
yes, sir. Next item would be public hearings, ordinance for first and final passage and second passages for discussion and possible vote. An ordinance of the Council of the City of East Providence appropriating an additional $11,271.12 for the purchase of a John Deere tractor. Sponsor is Councilman Lawson.
as we know, Councilman Lawson became ill the last minute tonight, so he has said that he's obviously in support of this. If someone else wants to add their name for the record tonight, if not, I'll add my name, but I think, Dan, this is equipment we need, I assume, it's,
I just had a question about,
Sure.
because I remember in the presentation that we had, seeing something about a John Deere, and I couldn't recall whether it was a tractor or a different type of equipment, so I just wanted clarification on that.
It was a tractor. The council did approve, I believe it was $50,000 for a John Deere tractor. Inflation, supply chain, that price has since increased. This would be used to tow the beachcomber that actually I think is getting delivered this week. So this will cover the gap in.
Okay, so this is really just additional funds needed to purchase that original ask that the council has already approved.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
thank you, Councilman, good point raised.
With that, I support and move to approve. Well, it's a public hearing, so I guess we can open it to the public.
Any other questions from the council? If not, is anyone here that wants to speak? You two young ladies don't want to speak on the tractor?
Color preference?
It's green. It's green.
Are you saying that women can just deal with colors and not the equipment?
Not at
Just
all.
quit while you're ahead, Councilman.
No, I didn't see it that way.
Close the public hearing. Is there a motion? There was a motion by Councilwoman Souza, seconded by Councilman Fogarty. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Passes 4-0. Thank you. Next, Madam Clerk.
Next, we do not have any continued business. It'll be new business, mayor communications, appointment and reappointments not requiring council confirmation. And we'll have Director Gonzalez.
Thank you. The first appointment not requiring council confirmation from the mayor is Brianna Del Santo, appointment to the Affirmative Action Committee. Seat number 3, term is from 10/2/22 to 10/1/24. Second appointment from the mayor is to the Carousel Commission, Ward 2, Paulo Seguero Jr. Term is from 1/16/21 to 1/15/24. The final appointment from the mayor is the appointment to the Carousel Commission, Joanna Perella, Ward 4, term 6/7/20 to 6/6/23.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Director.
So 2B, we have items for announcements and discussion. It's Women's History Month Proclamation 2023.
Paraphrase from this proclamation. March 8th is International Women's Day, and the month of March is Women's History Month. International Women's Day is a global day celebrating the social, economic, and cultural and political achievements of women. And whereas International Women's Day is a collective day of global celebration and a call for gender parity. Whereas in the United States, President Barack Obama proclaimed March 2011 to be Women's History Month, calling on Americans to mark International Women's Day by reflecting on the extraordinary accomplishment of women in shaping the country's history. And whereas during Women's History Month, we honor the women who sacrificed and strive to ensure all people have an equal opportunity. And whereas the city recognizes these women have contributed to the betterment of the city of East Providence and the advancement of women, the Honorable Mayor Roberto da Silva, on behalf of the City of East Providence, celebrate International Women's Day and proclaim the month of March as Women's History Month in the City of East Providence. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman, tomorrow is National Women's Day. You can take the day off.
Tell my employer.
Yeah.
And we'll pay her too. That's, you're a gentleman.
Excuse me. How about, no, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Gotta do the minutes. Next item, reports of other city officials. First is report of the city solicitor, the claims committee report.
Thank you. The city council met as a claims committee prior to the start of an executive session prior to the start of the open meeting. They considered the claim of Kathleen Moniz in the amount of $245 for a sewer backup, which was denied by the city council. Item number 2 is review and discussion of the final collective bargaining agreement of local firefighter 850. The council tabled that until they get a full council was available. That concludes my report.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, you have to post these minutes tomorrow.
Yes,
You have to
I do.
work.
That's what I said. I gotta be here. Next item will be the reports of the school committee liaison, which is here.
She departed.
She departed. Okay.
I didn't see her. She was here earlier.
She was.
You didn't recognize. That's why she walked out. I was trying to
Oh,
get your
too
attention.
bad. I would have apologized for that. We could have.
It was the chairwoman too.
Yes.
We're used to late meetings. This is an early.
I know.
Yeah. This is early.
Next would be introduction of ordinances for discussion and possible vote. An ordinance and amendment of Chapter 18 of the revised ordinances of the City of East Providence, Rhode Island, 1998, as amended, entitled Vehicles and Traffic. The summary is Section 18-269B, to place a stop sign at Lion Ave and Moran Ave, sponsor Councilwoman Souza.
So as the council knows, I briefly mentioned some of this in the council discussion portion of the meeting. We are already underway for the traffic study, so we will be awaiting that, those results. I do want to move forward and do first passage. It does still have to come for second passage. By second passage, we'll have some more data, and certainly the recommendation of the DPW director to then make, a final decision. But I'd still like to move this process forward in the event that we do pass second passage after a public. So.
That a motion? Seconded by Councilman Regal. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it, 4-0. Thank you.
Next item, resolutions for discussion and possible vote. Resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Truax Corporation for storm drain CCTV inspection and cleaning, sponsor Council President Fredericks. I may have pronounced that one.
This has been an important issue throughout the city, especially when we go through periods of heavy rain and snow, which luckily we haven't had, but clearing of storm drains. Almost every neighborhood in the city has been touched by this problem. And the mayor and Director Borges have committed to putting a camera system through pipes and other areas to try to find the problem areas and work on them. Before I just read part of this, Director, do you need to add anything, or it's been discussed a lot and
You said it perfectly. I shouldn't have even showed up tonight.
no, you should be here. And that addition to your family is getting close, I understand.
About a week and a half. So
Wow, good luck.
We'll be on sabbatical soon, don't we?
So this is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Truax Corporation for storm drain CCTV inspection and cleaning. The city did receive 3 bids. The lowest bid was submitted by Truax Corporation in the amount of $236,500. And for clarification, anyone not aware, that the services include opening up and accessing storm drain catch basins and manholes, cleaning of catch basins and manholes where required in order to access the drainage pipes, providing the TV inspection of the storm drain pipes and documenting all of this on a hard drive. There's a lot of work to this, and I'm sure years of pipe failures and blockages that need to be addressed. The city will use ARPA and other available funding to complete the project, and it is the low bid. So that is the resolution. You have attached the bids, and you see that the highest was almost $400,000. So we are going with the low bid, which Director Borges has said is a certified, qualified company. Is there a motion?
I just have one question.
Sure.
Council President, do we know when this would begin to take place? How long it would, we anticipate doing all of this citywide? And can the council be notified of if they're portioning it in sections, which I would imagine that we'd be notified, so that we could, be aware of our districts before a press release would come out and notifying the public?
Yeah, so I don't have a timeline as to the completion of the whole project, but there is a significant amount of pipe to be cleaned and CCTV'd. There won't be much disruption. A lot of the, excuse me, a lot of the drain lines are on, local roadways within neighborhoods. The work will all happen, during the day. We can certainly work towards, trying to notify residents, but it might be a little difficult because the truck, does move at a fairly rapid pace the minute, they hit a specific line section, then they're, moving on. So it's hard to predict when exactly the work will, begin in one particular area, but we could see what we could do about.
So yeah, I think what I'm picturing is more of a general knowledge of,
The neighborhood.
maybe they're gonna be in Rumford from X amount, because I'm assuming
sure, I understand.
systematic, right? So maybe they start up in Rumford, I don't know, in May, and then.
Yeah,
by
we
the
could
time-
probably
you know,
provide.
Just like a week to week, like where their sections they might be, just so, if they're gonna work during the day, there's still kind of a lot of movement during the day, you got buses and school.
Yeah, we can certainly distribute some sort of schedule, work
Yeah.
with the contractor to develop something.
Right, that'd be
Sure.
great. So we could notify residents, or if they,
They call us.
yeah, they wondering what's going on, that would be helpful. And I know the city does a great job of putting out, public press releases, but it'd be nice for us to have it in advance, a few weeks in advance.
So on the website
Schedule.
too, the city website can list that we are starting this week. If you see trucks in the neighborhood,
Just a generalized outline.
yeah, can't be street by street, I know, but at least like a neighborhood.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem.
With that, if the motion hasn't been made, I make a motion to approve.
Motion made by Councilwoman Souza to approve the resolution. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilman Fogarty, seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, 4-0. Thank you. And next item.
Next will be a petition from CNC Investing Group for rezoning of property located at 10 Wampanoag Trail. It's map 308, block 17, parcel 15, from a residential 3R3 to a commercial 2C2, referring to the planning board for recommendation.
Yes, Mr. Solicitor.
Thank you, Council President. As you know, for those of you who are familiar with zone changes, this is just a ministerial act. You are required, once we receive a petition, to forward it to the planning board for the recommendations. They have a time frame to get back to us, and then then we have to advertise for 3 weeks for a public hearing on that recommendation once we get it. So this is really just a ministerial act at this point.
So for anyone reading the docket or watching, this has to go to the planning board. It's a step, the process, it comes back to the council eventually. So we have final say. For clarification purposes, and Councilman Fogarty, this property is in your ward, also in my area. This is the big red brick house right on the corner of Wampanoag Trail, just down a bit. If you were to look across the street, you see the Cumberland Farms and
Corner of Ashburton.
corner of Ashburton's Road, which years ago was cut through. It used to be a dead end. And this is been a mystery house to many people because it's kind of a nice looking place, but it used to be a doctor's facility, but it's sat vacant and it's starting to look unkempt. So this is a nice idea. I'll just say initially, it's not getting knocked down. We're going to keep it. They're going to keep the footing, the same footing. They're going to renovate inside. They want to put an artist studio in the two big garage bay areas. And anyway, the details will come out later, but it seems to be a win-win, and it could maybe, as you suggested, Councilman, could tie into cleaning up that corner. We want to get that empty lot, the Wampanoag Diner, cleaned up.
Yes.
And maybe if you're talking to any of the legal parties involved, Mr. Solicitor, you could put a bee in their bonnet about maybe they want to purchase that corner and then clean the whole corner up.
We'll try.
No, only when you're on the clock. So,
So I just have a question.
Yes.
And the solicitor might know this, or the deputy clerk. Is this coming before the planning board at tomorrow's meeting?
I don't know that for a
I
fact.
didn't see the agenda.
It would be on the agenda if it is. This was
Probably
actually-
not if we didn't approve the.
Well, we just do this as a matter of courtesy because the statute requires us to give it
Yeah.
them automatically. So we just this is just to
Okay.
keep it transparent. I believe it might have already gone to the planning board.
Or maybe.
So it may be on, I'll double check for you tomorrow.
Good luck.
Yeah,
I didn't
We can look
see-
on the agenda too.
I didn't see.
It may not, it could have became late. There is a zone change coming from a recommendation from the planning board that's on the docket, but I don't think it's this property.
So this is just for information.
All right, so I move to
Basically.
recommend this petition for zoning to the planning board.
Motion by Councilman Souza is to approve this recommendation and send it forward to the planning board.
I second.
Councilman Fogarty seconds that. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, 4-0.
Move to
Thank you.
adjourn, Council President.
You beat me to
Motion
the punch, damn it.
To adjourn, seconded by Councilman Rego and Councilman Fogarty. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have
All
it.
right.
Thank you.
Let me try to-
I'll be there. Yeah.